Elisa Lam was found in the water tank.
An ongoing interest in these cases where there's no real definitive wrapped up in a bow ending.
People to see Elisa Lam alive worked here at the last bookstore. Happened here in the last 97 years.
What happened after Elisa Lam stepped inside the elevator doors at the Cecil Hotel chills anyone who watches. This is the truth behind Elisa Lam's last elevator footage, and nothing about it is what it seems. Inside the elevator. Once inside, Elisa Lam pressed every elevator button in rapid succession with her hands moving almost automatically. The doors refused to close. Her body was tense and then relaxed in unpredictable bursts. The elevator responded strangely. Lisa crouched, then straightened, pressing buttons again, stepping back as if to hide. She glanced at the floor indicators, counting, testing, trying to find a solution. This was clearly a desperate escape attempt.
Last known people to see Elisa Lam alive worked here at the last bookstore.
But her behavior made no sense to anyone watching. Calm one second and absolutely frantic the very next. Her movements seemed jerky, but still purposeful, almost like someone following an unseen cue. The camera managed to catch it all, yet it provided no solid explanation. Was there someone or something lurking in the hall outside? Every second stretched, amplifying the unknown. The elevator seemed almost aware of her, reacting differently than expected, trapping her in a loop of confusion. But there was something the camera didn't show, and that's where she went next. The vanish.
She was very outgoing, I think, in a way that felt overwhelming and even possibly aggressive.
By February 1st, Lisa hadn't checked out of the Cecil Hotel. Staff grew concerned, noticing her belongings still in the room. Calls to her went unanswered. What should have been a routine stay had turned into a full-blown alert. Police arrived to investigate. Rooms were searched, hallways combed, and even the roof checked. But there were no signs of forced entry or struggle. Staff reported no suspicious activity, but their accounts were inconsistent. Some couldn't recall seeing her for days, while others remembered brief, odd encounters that added more questions than answers.
Always an ongoing interest in these cases where there's no real definitive wrapped up in a bow ending.
The building surveillance was extensive, yet footage of Lisa was oddly scarce. Sure, one elevator camera caught her last movements, but beyond that, the trail went cold. Officers interviewed anyone who had contact with her, but every lead ended in uncertainty. The hotel was large, crowded, and its staff, although cooperative, seemed confused. Days passed, and the case was now getting increasingly urgent. Her parents' calls became desperate now. Public attention started to mount. And then the first clue police found only made the situation stronger. The room with no struggle.
Like, we shouldn't still have this kind of unsolved mystery in an era of...
Investigators entered Elisa's room. Everything was in place, with clothes neatly folded. Her personal items were untouched, and a bag was still partially packed. Nothing indicated she had been in any immediate danger. Earlier in her stay, Elisa had booked a shared room to save money, but the arrangement had quickly changed. Staff reported her behavior had made the roommate uncomfortable, leading to her being moved into a private room. The minor detail would later take on greater significance.
Ever since.
It's an ongoing thing, and that has no real closure to it. For people that are out there that love true crime, they love to add in their own 2 cents.
Everything matched: wallet, passport, clothes, but her presence was gone. There weren't any signs of a departure, though. Every investigation pointed to a disappearance, as the room continued to offer zero answers. But it did add to the list of questions. And this wasn't the discovery that pushed the case into worldwide attention.
Hamilton.
In so many ways, the Cecil is like, a metaphor for the city of Los Angeles and Hollywood.
Public release of the elevator footage. On February 14th, LAPD released the elevator footage. Within hours, it exploded online. The clip obviously sparked endless debate. People speculated whether she was lost in thought, experiencing a mental episode, or reacting to something unseen. Comment threads filled with theories, from foul play to paranormal explanations even. Analysts highlighted the elevator's odd timing and mechanics, noting glitches and inconsistencies in the door behavior. Fans and skeptics alike replayed the video, frame by frame, searching for patterns or clues. Talking about clues, here's what one of the managers had to say.
Felt that she would be found at the hotel. I mean, my feeling was, she's struggling with mental illness.
The hotel became notorious overnight. Visitors and journalists pressed for answers, while authorities faced mounting pressure. Each new upload drew wider attention, and the footage quickly defined the case in the public eye. Yet witness statements, staff accounts, and minor inconsistencies suggested there was more to the story. But the tape wasn't the only thing that didn't add up. Impossible behavior. Professional investigators reviewed the elevator footage repeatedly. At one point, the elevator even began to close, then instantly reversed despite no obstruction in the doorway. This was happening despite sensors not registering any interference.
So here, we actually had an interview booked with the LAPD, and then they called right before the interview and canceled, saying that higher up said they weren't allowed to speak about this investigation at this point. Any clues at all?
Technicians examined the building's whole system. Turns out the modern elevator had quirks like software updates, manual overrides, and safety interlocks that could create minor glitches. Still, none could account for the precise sequence of events that were captured on tape. Each irregularity was logged, compared to other footage, and then tested against expected operation patterns. Security staff confirmed there were no reports of tampering.
The hotel, sort of wasn't entirely up to, standards at the time, and I think it was sort of a hotel for down and out people and maybe for European tourists who didn't know better.
Even the access logs showed no personnel interacting with the system at that time. Maintenance records revealed the elevator had been checked recently with no outstanding issues noted. At this point, the system itself seemed to resist normal logic. And while viewers obsessed over the footage, the hotel was facing a new problem: black water complaints.
Water from the tap, something the Cecil Hotel doesn't want you to see. Hotel resident Alvin Taylor helped us videotape it with a cell phone.
Weeks after Elisa's disappearance, hotel guests began reporting problems with the water. Showers ran with low pressure. Some streams appeared discolored, and the tap water carried a strange metallic taste. Guests complained to management, and rumors began to circulate, amplifying the hotel's growing unease.
There was a complaint about the water pressure, so I asked maintenance to check for possible clogs.
Maintenance staff were dispatched to investigate. Santiago Lopez, assigned to inspect the rooftop tanks, assumed that it would be a routine check. The tanks were massive, steel cylinders, usually sealed and largely forgotten. As Lopez climbed to the roof and opened the access hatch, he noticed the water looked darker than normal, and the surface was rippling strangely. He tested the taps on the lower floors, but got the same result. Reports of foul water had now been mounting for days, but no one expected anything beyond a plumbing malfunction. Hotel management tried to reassure guests, attributing the discoloration to sediment or minor contamination. Still, the complaints persisted, and investigators started monitoring the situation more closely. Staff prepared for a simple cleanup, expecting routine debris or stagnation. Every precaution was taken, but what lay beneath the hatch was completely unforeseen. What they found inside the tank changed the investigation instantly. Discovery of her body. As Santiago Lopez got up again with a flashlight for a closer look, he peered into the tank and froze. Floating in the dark, murky water was the lifeless body of Elisa Lam. The news spread fast.
Here's what we know, that Miss Lam's body was apparently found this morning in a water tank.
The hotel's water system was immediately shut down as whole floors were evacuated. In an instant, authorities were called in. Panic rippled through staff and guests alike, who realized they had unknowingly used the same water for days. Guests were visibly upset.
If there was a dead body in the water you were using and drinking?
It's kind of odd, the whole damn thing.
Investigators arrived and cordoned off the rooftop. The tank was drained carefully, revealing Lisa's body in a state of advanced decomposition, thanks to days being in the water tank. Forensic teams struggled to determine specifics. The prolonged immersion made it nearly impossible to identify marks, bruising, or evidence of foul play.
Hi, Megan. I just got off the phone with the coroner's office, and they're talking about performing an autopsy on the body.
Autopsy reports would be limited to leaving critical questions unanswered. The scene was chaotic but obviously controlled. Officers documented the water contamination, checked access points, and began reconstructing how someone could reach the rooftop. Staff described locked doors and security codes that should have restricted entry, adding to the confusion. Every detail was scrutinized. We are talking about access ladders, tank hatches, elevator routes, but still no clarity. The shocking nature of the discovery cast a shadow over the hotel. Guest complaints now had an ominous origin, and the public would soon learn of the grim reality. But the real puzzle wasn't her body. It was how she got into the tank. Physical impossibilities. Investigators turned their attention to the logistics of Lisa reaching the rooftop tank. Access appeared nearly impossible, as it was inaccessible to even the majority of the staff. Doors leading to the roof were locked and alarmed, designed to prevent unauthorized entry. Ladders used for maintenance were not positioned near the tanks, and the hatch covering the tank was securely fastened when her body was discovered. Fire escapes provided potential access, but security cameras did not capture her ascending. The elevator did not reach the roof, and no staff reported seeing her near restricted areas. Even if she had climbed the fire escape, reaching the tank and entering it without assistance seemed mechanically unlikely. The tank itself posed additional challenges. It was very tall, narrow, and required significant effort to climb onto, especially without a ladder. Engineers, police, and investigators debated every scenario. Could someone have helped her? Did she bypass security unknowingly? Every hypothesis came with glaring contradictions. Theory 1: foul play. The first theory considered was very obviously murder. The Cecil Hotel had multiple employees with rooftop access and knowledge of security systems. So if someone had wanted to avoid detection, they could have manipulated cameras or even erased footage, leaving gaps in surveillance. Now let's go back for a minute. Elisa's behavior in the elevator now fueled speculation. The way she hid suggested fear. Investigators noted that restricted doors, ladders, and hatches were all accessible to staff, but not to guests. This led to the idea that someone with insider knowledge could have guided her to the rooftop tank without leaving obvious traces. Witness statements and access logs were inconsistent, adding credibility to the scenario in the eyes of online theorists. The theory combined opportunity, access, and unexplained evidence. The public and media dissected every angle, from camera angles to maintenance routines, trying to reconcile the disappearance with human interference. But a darker interpretation hit the internet. one that went beyond the physical world. Theory 2, the paranormal angle. The second theory focused on the paranormal. The Cecil Hotel had a history of violent deaths, suicides, and notorious occupants, which some suggested created a uniquely unsettling environment. Online speculation linked Lisa's elevator behavior to the so-called elevator game, a ritual believed to transport participants to another dimension. In the footage, her erratic gestures were what was cited as potential signs of reacting to unseen forces. Proponents of this theory argued that minor anomalies in the elevator, like doors opening without obstruction, could indicate interference beyond standard mechanics. The theory relied heavily on the hotel's reputation and the unusual nature of the footage. Many noted that while no evidence supported actual supernatural activity, the combination of her mental state, the building's history, and the inexplicable elevator behavior fueled online fascination. Technical reviews of the elevator, staff reports, and hotel access logs raised significant doubts about any supernatural involvement. Yet even this theory fell apart under one crucial detail. Theory 3, mental break, medical explanation. The third theory focused on Elisa's mental health. She had documented diagnoses of bipolar disorder and depression, and was prescribed multiple medications to manage her symptoms. Records suggested that she had not been consistently taking her medication, creating a risk for disorientation, hallucinations, and extreme mood swings. Clinical experts also noted that her elevator behavior aligned with very well-known symptoms of mania or acute psychotic episodes. Hallucinations or paranoia could also have caused her to believe that she was being chased, which really does explain movements that would otherwise have seemed inexplicable. Investigators and psychologists considered this to be the most plausible explanation for the footage. It accounted for the erratic, repetitive gestures without requiring outside interference, foul play, or supernatural forces. In this framework, her actions in the elevator were consistent with a mental health crisis rather than external manipulation. The theory also suggested why she may have ended up on the rooftop. She could have sought a secluded space in a moment of confusion, accidentally falling into the tank. While this explanation matched behavioral and medical evidence, it left one major question unresolved. And the question was the hardest one to answer. Final missing piece. Investigators revisited the rooftop access and the fire escape that could reach the roof without triggering alarms. It turned out that the maintenance ladders were occasionally left unsecured. That, combined with inconsistencies in staff reports, meant that the rooftop was not as inaccessible as initially believed or portrayed for that matter. The water tank hatch, long assumed to have been locked, had in some instances been left slightly ajar for maintenance. Reconstructions demonstrated that someone could climb onto the tank and, whether by accident or confusion, fall inside. And these details did align with the timeline. Elisa's last movements in the elevator, her disappearance, and the discovery of her body all fit a scenario that required no external assistance. But how did she manage to enter the tank fully? Whether she intentionally climbed or stumbled, and why no one noticed, is mainly what remains unsolved. The combination of mental health factors, hotel quirks, and chance creates a scenario where multiple explanations are plausible but incomplete. The case resists closure while the public continues to debate what really happened and the dark history of the hotel. And that's the problem with this case. Every explanation solves one mystery and exposes another. Is there another theory that comes to mind? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments.